From KCTS-FM Phoenix, I'm Jamison Greenwood with Greenwood and Company. Well, it's great to be back with you guys. I hope everybody had a happy Halloween on Thursday, and now we move into yesterday was All Saints' Day, today is All Souls' Day. And as I was thinking about my saints, one of the saints that I will remember most fondly was my Grammy Bentsen. I didn't know my grandfather. He died before I was born, but everything I remember about my Grammy Bentsen was just wonderful. She was just a kind, saintly woman, always willing to lend a helping hand to whoever needed it. But she ran into some rough things in life, and one of which was just a home improvement project, a replacement of a dishwasher that went horribly, horribly wrong. And I will tell you about that in a moment, but she managed to keep her spirits up even through that, which I will always admire. Before I tell you that story, though, I wanted to share a poem with you that I wrote. Now, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm a little back and forth on it. It's wonderful memories growing up here, but I just don't like the heat. And people go to the desert because they believe that it's low maintenance, but some of the plants, the succulents, are not as low maintenance as you might think. You'll see this as you listen to this poem I wrote, the Mesquite Tree Sonnet. Desert tree of robust framed construction, growing ever tall, your branches wide, yet triggering much chaos and destruction. From your frustrations folks could maybe die. A succulent, you don't demand much water, but like the bees and wasps you give a sting. Like angry dads protecting teenage daughters, your spines grow strong and sharp, and pain they bring. Your nature isn't for the faint of heart. You grow up faster than a high school child. Your beauty, though perhaps like precious art, is better suited for the desert's wild. Though sturdy is the mighty tough mesquite, it's no tree we should plant on city streets. Now, Arizona is not the best state for everyone, especially when you consider our flora and fauna, obviously mesquite trees, and if you're worried about fauna, our bees are mostly Africanized, although they do still produce decent honey in my experience. But anyhow, Arizona, though, can still, especially the Southwest where I come from, be the perfect place for somebody, and in the case of my grandparents, it was the perfect place. And I think it made them a little bit happier, but no matter where you live, nothing can be more frustrating as the issues with finding a new dishwasher, especially when you've had one that you've been happy with that has worked for so many years. Thus the story I am about to tell you, which I call Very Old But Works Fine. When I was 10 years old, Mrs. Hicks, my fourth grade teacher, would require us to write 2 pages every week in wide-ruled composition books. One week the prompt was, write about a favorite place. While my 2 best friends, Theo and Taylor, wrote about our church and Disneyland respectively, I decided to write about Grammy's house. My grandmother lived almost 40 years in a late 1970s ranch house in Sun City West, which she purchased brand new with my grandfather. Over the course of living there, she, like many grandmothers, found no need to keep the home up to date as time passed around it. From about 1978 until she died, the floors were covered in shag carpet with strands of orange, brown, and gold. Looking back, it really resembled vomit, but because people were doing so many drugs in the 1970s, they probably threw up a lot, so the familiarity of vomit in a ubiquitous material such as carpeting brought them a grotesque sense of comfort. It never bothered me as a child until we got cable and my mother began watching HGTV. A certain sense of security comes from a home that remains the same even as the world evolves from landlines and letters stamped at the post office to iPhones and e-cards. At Grammy's house, the hugs, warm cookies, and the Disney movies we watched on the Magnavox TV, along with the large holiday gatherings, are what I'll remember most. But the pecan-tone closet doors, the illuminated glass-based table lamps with the pleated drum-shaped shades, and the metallic floral wallpaper in the bathrooms made for a carefully designed set for a play about your childhood's happiest memories. The set was never the focal point, but made the actors that much more convincing. When we went to visit Grammy the day before I was to turn in my entry, I asked her to read it. A retired English teacher, Grammy was charmed by my description, but pulled no punches about my atrocious handwriting, poor spelling, and non-existent punctuation. However, she especially did not like my repetitive use of the phrase, very old but works fine. Grammy's TV is a Magnavox console that is very old but works fine. Grammy's garage has a Genie garage door opener that is very old but works fine. Grammy's toilets are very old but work fine. The things in my house are not that old, Jimmy, Grammy explained. Well, it's all older than the stuff in our house, I said. And besides, I like that the stuff in your house is old. It's a lot cooler than the stuff in our house. Our stuff is so boring. Yes, said Grammy, but when your grandpa and I first moved here, everything in this house was brand new. All the appliances in Grammy's kitchen were, of course, very old and worked fine. A Harvest Gold General Electric suite consisting of refrigerator, cooktop, wall oven, and dishwasher. The first three refused to die or show any signs of declining health, but eventually the dishwasher began to descend towards Hades. Grammy noticed some coffee cups still stained with rings of caked-on Folgers and Lipton, and a few bowls with traces of Hormel chili. She figured these just needed more scrubbing and a second wash cycle would be enough, but after the stains remained, or in some cases managed to get worse, plus the pool of powder blue liquid detergent caking to the paddles and collecting at the bottom, it was clear the machine was the problem. Grammy suspected she needed a new dishwasher but wanted to get a second opinion, so she called Ross Cooper, her unlicensed handyman, an expert in things he knows nothing about. Grammy hoped that Ross might be able to fix the dishwasher, but after opening it up and glancing at it from his 6'2" stature, not making any effort to get on his hands and knees with a flashlight and inspect the system thoroughly, he determined it needed replacement. Once Ross confirmed there was no hope for the old machine, Grammy called my mother to ask for her company on a trip to Sears to consult on a new dishwasher. It's only a box of 4 cubic feet for a few $100s, but it's still one of those purchases like a car or a house, where you need to bring along an uninterested party to catch on to a potential scam. The Monday of my fall break, Mom, Macy, and I climbed into my mother's Mercury Grand Marquis, drove to pick up Grammy, and after having lunch at Coco's, we went to the mall to look for a new dishwasher. I expected we would all walk straight to the appliance department at Sears, but Mom had to make an unexpected detour as we passed by Dillard's. One of her colleagues had a birthday near, and she wanted to stop to get her a gift certificate while it was still on her mind. Grammy, you can just take the kids along, my mother assured her. I'll join you guys later. While my mom walked among the expensive racks of Roundtree and York clothing to buy her colleague's gift, Grammy, Macy, and I walked over to Sears. The now forgotten sound of teenage customers, music on the intercoms, and the scent of pizza from the food court along with a melting pot of perfumes guided us toward the decaying carcass of what had once been America's biggest retailer, the Amazon of its day. This was long before Sears went bankrupt and shuttered its stores, but it never seemed as nice to Macy and I as Penny's, Dillard's, or Robinson's may, and I'm sure for Grammy and our parents it was a shadow of its former self. We passed through displays of beige living room furniture and shelves of Craftsman power tools before we found the appliances. There were a number of dishwashers to choose from, almost a dozen on either side of a long narrow aisle, every brand available it seemed. But there was one problem. "Jimmy," said Grammy, "I don't see any Harvest Gold dishwashers. Do you?" Now, the bad news is I can't tell you about that just yet because we've reached the point in the show when we have to take a short break, but once we hear from some of our sponsors, I will go on with what Grammy decided to do. You are listening to Greenwood & Company on KCTS. Everyone loves a great credit card until you max it out, and those interest payments can ruin your life. That's where Forest Canyon Bank and Trust comes in with the brand new Forest Canyon Unlimited Platinum Credit Card. It's unlimited credit with unlimited interest. Need a shopping spree at Saks Fifth Avenue? Not a problem. Need a new Ferrari and a Cadillac Escalade? We got you covered. Need a dilapidated vacation home in Napa Valley with $100K worth of plumbing problems and even more in needed renovations? Unlimited Platinum Credit is the card for you. You may never pay it off, and your kids and grandkids will get so pissed at you for the burden of the soul-crushing debt they'll inherit. But with your unlimited credit, thanks to the Forest Canyon Unlimited Platinum Credit Card, you can buy whatever you need to keep up with the Joneses whenever you need it. So why wait? Apply for the Forest Canyon Unlimited Platinum Debit Card today. Tell them Ranger Powell needs some help with his balance. Forest Canyon Unlimited Platinum Credit Card is not available in California, Connecticut, Maryland, or New York State. Forest Canyon Bank and Trust is not insured by the FDIC and could put you at risk of criminal prosecution. And welcome back. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on the Cactus, KCTS. Now, before the break, Grammy, Macy, and I were at Sears, and we couldn't find a Harvest Gold dishwasher. I could tell the lack of selection was distressing Grammy, but the only Harvest Gold product I found was a faint trace in the fabric of the chairs and couches we'd passed through earlier. Grammy did not want to buy anything without Mom's review, so we walked back to Dillard's only to find that she wasn't there. Grammy did not have a cell phone, so we went to the customer service desk where she slid coins from her purse into a payphone and called my mother on her business cell. Mom was in fact in the appliance department at Sears, wondering where we'd gone, so we returned to Sears. "Why did I let your father convince me to buy Harvest Gold?" Grammy asked of Mom. "I knew we should have gotten white." Mom pondered Grammy's dilemma. "What about bisque? It won't look exactly the same, but it's a little less obvious than white." After pondering a moment, Grammy accepted my mother's suggestion. Bisque was never a very popular color, but also one that appliance manufacturers have never been successful at phasing out. Having little interest in technology, Grammy paid for the dishwasher with a Wells Fargo paper check, and we took her back to Sun City West, where we visited for a bit before my dad joined us for dinner. Grammy's dishwasher came on Saturday morning, and being that this was a regular day for visiting her, we were excited to see it when we arrived. Then we entered the kitchen to find no new bisque dishwasher, nor even the Harvest Gold dishwasher, but an empty crevice next to the kitchen sink beneath her microwave. "What happened, Grammy?" I asked. "Well," she began, "the nice young man came by and removed the old one. I was in the living room just working on the Los Angeles Times crossword, but then he came and told me there was a problem he needed me to look at. Apparently the entire appliance looked as though it had been in a car wreck and sent to the scrapyard. The metal door was dented with an ever-growing strip of rust along the bottom and sides, and the plastic control panel was cracked in several places. Shards of plastic broke off as the workman pulled it up toward Grammy's garage to get it into the kitchen, littering her driveway." Grammy, a saintly Depression-era woman, could tolerate almost anything save cold coffee and George W. Bush, but despite her fears of upsetting the delivery man, she sent the dishwasher back to Sears and got a full refund. The next week, while Macy and I were at school, Mom and Grammy stopped at an appliance store in downtown Glendale where she found the same bisque dishwasher available from Sears for nearly $100 less. Grammy signed the delivery form and installation invoice, so next Saturday her dishwasher would come. So it was quite a surprise when Saturday rolled around and the same dishwasher came, but with the same defects as the ones purchased from Sears. Grammy did not want to deal with finding another store or a new model, so they offered to get her a replacement. However, after another 3 weeks, the replacement dishwasher came and had the same problem: rust spots and a cracked control panel. After some discussions between the store owner and the manager of the factory over in Kansas City, found that there was a problem with the forced air supply for a machine which was collecting the finished bisque dishwashers, causing them to crash head first into a barrier as they came out of the boxing area. There also turned out to be a water leak in the warehouse where the bisque models were stored, causing all the dishwashers in one corner to turn out rusted. After all this trouble, Grammy established that perhaps a bisque dishwasher was bad luck, so she looked around and selected a different model, which was installed in her home the next weekend. When we went to visit her that Saturday night, Grammy took us into the kitchen to see it. When I examined it, I realized that it was exactly the same as her old one. It had a simulated wood grain control panel surrounded by chrome, with a black knob and several chrome switches, with a white General Electric logo in the lower left corner. The only difference was that it wasn't giving her any trouble. "Did you go on eBay? Grammy, you don't even have a computer." "No, Jimmy," Grammy explained. "I bought it at that same appliance store. It's what they call reconditioned. That's when someone gives them an old dishwasher that still works, and they make it all shiny and new for somebody else. It's less expensive." "I like it." "I thought you would, Jimmy. After all," Grammy continued, "it's very old, but works fine." You are listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS.
Not long ago, I was out for a Sunday stroll when I realized I had to get to the bathroom immediately. There seemed no choice but to run home or find a bush to drape my skirts over. But I was able to get a bucket delivered right where I was standing within seconds. I used my chamber pot drone remote control. Just log in, press the button, and Chamber Pot Drone's state-of-the-art GPS technology will deliver a bucket for your potty emergencies with lightning speed. And when you're finished, just dump the bucket wherever it's convenient. Why wait? Call our toll-free number right now for more information.
You can call 1-800-567-CBPD. Not responsible for legal fees incurred by indecent exposure or water pollution charges. Call 1-800-567-CBPD. That number again is 1-800-567-CBPD. Must be 85 years or older to order. Call now. Well, I don't like listening to any of those stupid commercials any more than you do, but that's kind of just the way life is here at KCTS. But I do like some of our non-profit sponsors, like our next two. This week's show is brought to you by the Society for Cats with Mathematics Test Anxiety and the Shag Carpet Preservation Fund. Well, before we close tonight's show, I wanted to share with you a poem I wrote. I was thinking about things that are very old but work fine. By now you know I like that kind of stuff. You can diagnose me with whatever armchair psychology-related affliction you want to. But I was also thinking about families and family heirlooms. Some families like to pass down old clocks or furniture, pieces of china, jewelry, things of that nature, ties, watches. Well, in our family, we have had for 4 generations, as a matter of fact, something very old but that works fine, which inspired this poem. This is The Ode to a Vintage Record Player. Great-grandfather bought you on a discount, working for General Electric, who assembled you to purchase by the early boomers, asserting their dominance through leather jackets, poodle skirts, and rock and roll. But great-grandfather and great-grandmother excused you from all that duty, excused you from bouncing around in the trunk of a Chevy Bel Air, shaking your hips like Elvis did before Ed Sullivan made the cameras zoom further in. Your face and body, a beautiful shade of turquoise, could be covered in bumper stickers. Greetings from California, Disneyland, USA, the route to get there, Route 66. You never were filled with clothes or toothpaste. Your contents were the wires, circuits, vacuum tubes to produce the music of spinning black discs you played. You played the easy listening the boomers rebelled against. Benny Goodman, the Ames Brothers, sparkling champagne music of Lawrence Welk, seeking an escape from the uncertain world, a past they hoped would take over the present and future. However, the world continued to change. Hippies gave way to Gen X and millennials. Rock and roll gave way to metal, rap, and EDM. The phonograph gave way to the 8-track, the cassette, CDs, Spotify, and MP3s. But rather than fading away, we kept you close, a window to the past. Dad claimed you after great-grandmother and great-grandfather died. Then he passed you down to me. You channel the past every time your tubes light up and your turntable spins, perpetuating music both old and new to preserve the past and celebrate the future. That brings an end to this week's Greenwood and Company. Our show was created and hosted by yours truly and was written by him along with James Salison and Minnesota Martinez. The engineer is Ivan Crosby. Jonas Andrews answers the phones even though we don't take calls on this program. The theme was composed by Martin Landstrom, and our costumes are provided by Grandma's Garage Thrift Shop. All the characters, settings, and situations depicted in this program, along with all advertised products, are entirely fictional, and any similarities to products, events, or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. Also, KCTS is not an actual radio station. Just a reminder to please be careful if you are going out on the 101, the 17, or Route 66 tonight. I'm Jamison Greenwood, and until we meet again, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay young at heart. Good night. This is KCTS FM Phoenix. Stay tuned for Lacking in Substance.